Welcome. So I'm here with Professor Keith Brown, drummer extraordinaire, and I'm very excited to talk to him about the upcoming Knoxville Jazz Festival event. And this is a concert featuring the great Lewis Nash on Tuesday, April 7th at 8 p.m. at the Square Room. And I just want to begin, Keith, with a little information about Lewis Nash. What can you tell us about his playing?
Well, he's a combination of, I guess, what you would expect from a drummer who has made practically 400 recordings and who, growing up, was sought after by none other than Tommy Flanagan, who he played with for 10 years. He played with Dizzy Gillespie, he's played with James Moody, he played with Horace Silver, and those are the masters he played with. Of course, Jimmy Heath and etc. goes on pretty extensively. But he's also someone who plays with his peer group. You know, the musicians that he grew up with, the Steve Nelsons and the Steve Wilsons and all the various great musicians that are of his same, I guess, same age. And so he is a drummer that has a wide range. I like to say he must have had something that reminded the old masters of the old drumming masters. And I think in a lot of ways you wonder, well, why does a Dizzy Gillespie, why does a Tommy Flanagan want to play with a young drummer when they could still probably find some of the older jazz masters that play drums? And you could say, well, he's probably cheaper because he's younger. But you can also think of it in terms of historically older musicians. The masters love to play with young, promising musicians that they see have the youthfulness, but also the tradition, the history, and maybe a way of sharing their experience by playing with younger and bringing them along. And so now I guess Lewis Nash is in that category where he's getting to be in his career where he turns the tables. Maybe he starts to play with younger players as well. So I'm not sure I told you much about his playing precisely, but who he plays with pretty much says about everything you need to know. He harkens back to me. He reminds me in a lot of ways of many drummers, but in some ways Max Roach quite a bit in terms of the precision of his playing and the melodic aspect of his soloing, and just his time feel. Really energetic on top of the beat, really pushy in terms of drive and swinging.
Switching gears a little bit, moving to the Knoxville jazz scene, what kinds of things energize you about jazz and continue to inspire you to educate the next generation?
Well, it's a music that doesn't stand still, but yet there's a reverence to the past. So it's a music that, as you hear young players, they're searching for new sound, you sort of appreciate the fact that it must move forward with new ideas and combinations of things that maybe the generation you live in looks back and not really like. Maybe, you know, can name whatever's going on today and hear elements of it where it's not something that I listened to when I was growing up, so it's not of my generation, but I kind of like the fact that it's being incorporated. So when I listen to young players around Knoxville, I'm hoping that I hear that they're moving ahead, listening to new things. But my job, as I see it at the university, is to encourage that while realizing and help them find how it does connect to the past. Mm-hmm. Not only with technique and with, you know, just basic history, but really kind of get inside what makes a Joe Jones play the way he played, and then how he influenced Sid Catlett and Max Roach, and then how Max Roach influenced, you know, the next generations all the way up to Lewis Nash. And Lewis Nash, I always think that jazz is in whatever city. Knoxville, just another great example of where you have a nice marriage between older musicians who grew up, you know, loving the music of their era and wanting to retain it somewhat, and then the next generation of loving their music and trying to make those two things meet. So in Knoxville you have a lot of that going on. The music that's happening with the other Keith Brown, the piano player Keith Brown, what he's doing, the writing he's doing, in the various bands that he has. You hear him play both very traditionally at times, but also, you know, very contemporary. Vance Thompson and his group was a 5+6. It's a very innovative writing, taking different things that interest him. And the same as Jamel Mitchell, who was a tenor saxophone player who, I remember the first day he walked on campus. And you could just hear that there is a sound and a spirit that was just there. He and like Will Boyd and all these guys, Jason Thompson, they are the next generation of older players, and soon it's already happening. Anyway, so I think embedded in the idea, in this town in particular, because so many of the people that I looked up to as a kid sort of came up, you know, in a time period where you helped each other. It wasn't formal like we have at school, but I think one thing we've done very well at this school is try to keep the spirit of learning on the bandstand alive in the classroom. And Donald, with his experiences throughout with Memphis and elsewhere, now we have Greg Tardy and his, I mean, it's kind of makes it work.
And this concert is going to be the 7th of April, Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the Square Room. And I just want to say, without giving too much away about the festival, can you just give us a little sneak peek of what we have to look forward to for the Jazz Festival coming in the summer?
Well, there'll be a lot of things going on for the jazz in Knoxville. The Jazz on the Square, I think, starts back every Tuesday night,
and that's with the Knoxville
Jazz Orchestra kicks it off, and then Vance Thompson does it with mostly Greg Tardy and his group called the Marble City Five. In August, we're doing another concert, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not remembering who we're bringing in. I've been so focused on...
We can't say anyway.
You can't say? Well,
yeah,
see, I'm being coy. I'm acting like I don't know, but
Yes.
I've got the contract in my pocket.
Yes.
I will say this about the concert about Lewis Nash. I think there's a tendency when you hear that we're bringing in a guest to perform with local people who are very accustomed to seeing Vance and Greg and Keith and Taylor play, might think, well, I'd rather go see a brand new group. And that would be exciting to be sure. But what I found from being in the Knoxville Jazz Orchestra, every time we bring in a guest artist, their personality, their abilities, their individuality sort of changes the way that we play. And to do that in a big band is particularly hard. So I guess what I'm getting to is that as well as you might know Greg and Vance and Keith and Taylor, to hear them play with such a different drummer than you would hear from me or from Nolan or from Hunter Deacon or Steve Brown or whoever you go out to listen to. I know I forgot somebody's going to be mad at me, but to hear Lewis play with these people that they're typically here, they're going to hear a different side of Greg Tardy, a different side of Vance. And that's what I'm excited about. And sort of see what they bring to the table to stand on the bandstand with Lewis. It'll be interesting.
Thank you so much, Professor Keith Brown.